earlier today when we had one of the speakers who was talking about initiatives that are being taken from the public perspective, the public domain as well, in the diagnostic field. We want to continue that theme further because this next one is a topic which is the public-private partnership in diagnostics. And that is what we will be talking about, the role of how the government, the industry, global organizations, how each one of them can be working cohesively to bring out the best, ensuring that all the underserved and remote regions are also being catered to. So with this, let me start by inviting our moderator to please join us on stage, Mr. Sanjay Jha, who is the founder for Apan Medtech, co-founder for Collateral Medical, and the former board member for HealthCube, to please join us onto the stage. And also, please join me in welcoming our panelists with a round of applause. Mr. Puneet Gupta, Chief Operating Officer for POCT Services, Dr. Ajay Phadke, Director for Strategic Business Development at the Agilus Diagnostics, Dr. Sachin Gupte, Senior Advisor at PATH, and Mr. Amit Gupta, who is the Chief Operating Officer at the Credent Connect and Care. Please, if we can have all you fine gentlemen to please step up onto the stage. Mr. Jha, whenever you're ready, sir, the stage is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Public-private partnership, or PPP, in diagnostics are often viewed as outsourcing arrangements, but it's really much more than that. And with this panel, we'll get deeper into that. To put this in context, nearly 70% of clinical decisions are driven by diagnostic insights. And India performs an estimated 3 to 4 billion diagnostics tests every year. Yet, despite this scale, less than 1/3 of our population has timely access to quality diagnostics, especially at the block and village levels, where the real India lives. So we intentionally brought together perspectives from operations, policy, private diagnostics, development partners, and logistics, because PPP outcomes sit at the intersection of all these functions. So with this, let's begin our first round on PPP design, governance, and field learnings. We have approximately 25 odd minutes, so I will request you guys to respond in 2 minutes time frame if you can. So I'll start with Mr. Puneet Gupta, who is the CEO of POCT Services. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have heard of POCT, but if you have not, then please do read about them. They are one of the largest PPP players in India. They have pretty much 100% market share in UP public diagnostics. And now they are getting into Uttarakhand also in a very big way. Very big guys, and they have done amazing job, especially COVID times and post that. So, Puneet ji, from an operations point of view, because in your business, operations is very difficult, which we were talking about earlier. So from an operations and service delivery standpoint, what have been the most important relations for implementing diagnostic services within public health systems, particularly at the district and block levels?
Thank you, Sanjay, for this question, and thank you, VUH, for having me here and allowing me to share my thoughts. So public-private partnership is a subject which is there in mind of everybody. That, everybody see a big scope of business opportunity with the government, but everybody has a thought in mind that how to work with the government, because when you're working with government, you're actually serving the strata of the people, which is actually at the very bottom level of the economy, and they do need a very high quality diagnostic service. Fortunately, in recent past, government has become pretty much focused towards elevating these services of diagnostics, not only at the district level, but going deep down to up to the primary health center and even below what we call as the Arogya Mandirs, which is a very small, even at the village level. They are becoming quite focused. In fact, if you see the recent IPHL guidelines, where government has fixed certain number of tests which should be performed at each of these centers, like 64 at primary health center, 96 at community health centers, and moving forward. This is a very welcoming step. And where, the private players who has the expertise to run the lab operations should come into the picture, because they are the ones who can actually deliver the required amount of services to serve the nation. It's actually a social cause also associated with that. You are actually serving the real India. In terms of challenges, there are two biggest challenges. One is the availability of the basic infrastructure. And I'm talking about basic infrastructure, I'm not talking about the building. That will always be there. But the others, like electricity, very basic requirement. I mean, you will get a 24-hour supply to a district, but the moment you go to the deep down to the community health center level or primary health center level, you will see there are huge amount of fluctuations. Sometimes the light is not there for 2 days or 3 days. So there, ensuring the services remain continued is one of the biggest tasks. Internet availability. So we are an internet generation, but the real scenario is the moment you go anything below the cities what we have known and where we can correlate with, the moment you go deep down, you will find even the largest of the service providers are not available there. So there, you have to work out the ways and means that how can you make it available. So there the technology comes into the picture that, can we work out something called as a hybrid model where, your laboratory information system is working offline as well as online, so that, the services remain continued even though the internet is not there, people are getting served. Third is basic pest control because majority of these infrastructure are within that farmland where it's a free way for all the pest rodents over there. So ensuring that your equipments are not damaged by them is another pain point.
That's a pretty unique problem. Huh?
So now there are two scenarios what a private player has to think of. Either you depend upon the government that you go to them, tell them all these problems and then you wait for their solution, or you take a proactive approach, provide the solution first, then you ask the government to intervene. And where in our case we do the latter one first, that we become the proactive, we provide the solution first and then ask the government to intervene to help us out in further scaling it up. Second, and the most important one, is the availability of the manpower. Fortunately, since these are the government institutes, so you get the required amount of the clinicians or the pathologists at these facilities. So they ensure that these people are available. But the real people who are going to run the test for you, lab technicians, you may find people who are educated, but they are not skilled. So first of all, finding the people at such intertowns and then training them as per the required norms of running a test, and that to then educating them how to use the softwares is one of the tasks, because those are like education is majorly into your Hindi medium, right? English is not much of a subject which they learn. So making them understand the very basics of how to run a laboratory information system, how to run the test, how to validate the report at the first level, then forwarding it to the even the running the quality, and because they are educated at their own block level, where even those colleges do not have that infrastructure where they can tell them the practical experience to run the test. So in terms of the operations, these two are the biggest challenge. Rest, I think, with the supply chain comes, but thankfully we have companies like Credent who solve the job for us. So anybody who is entering into this, these two questions has to be answered first before entering into the PPP model.
So thanks, Puneetji. And if I gather the upside from what you just said, you are also providing employment to lots of untrained people and training them and bringing them to up to the speed.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Very well. Over to Dr. Ajay Farke. So Dr. Ajay is Director of Strategic Business Development of Agilus Diagnostics. they have done lots of PPP work, and Agilus Diagnostics, as you might already know, are pioneers in advanced diagnostics. Their quality is supposed to be very, very premium. Okay, I did get some of my tests done from your lab. Now, they have done lots of work in Bihar and Jharkhand. So when we talk about PPP, we look at rural areas. But surprisingly, and what Dr. Ajay told me is that they have done lots of good work in Mumbai. They have done over 1 lakh tests in Mumbai. So, Dr. Ajay, as public programs expand beyond basic tests, how can PPP framework support advanced diagnostics while remaining affordable and publicly accountable?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Sanjay, for the question, and thanks to VOH for inviting me. So PPP is something which has been around for quite some time. And like he's just said about underserved areas, and we're dealing with the lowest rung of the population. It was a very good experience for us to work in the TB program along with PATH. We did that. We were the first people to start it with PATH. And why I want to talk about that first is when you talk about advanced testing in diagnostics, in pathology, we are talking about usually not the routine tests like hormones and CBC and things like that. So anything which is molecular or genomics or histopathology would be considered to be slightly advanced. So as an example, we'll take GeneXpert. When we first started this partnership in 2016, the concept of XDR TB and molecular testing for TB did not exist in Mumbai, right?
So pre-COVID days.
Pre-COVID days, that was pre-COVID time. So we started coordinating with PATH, and we actually started processing about 300 to 500 samples of GeneXpert every day. And we continued that program for almost 4 to 5 years. What was heartening to know is that the clinicians in the city, at no charge, was treating these patients and were advising X-rays and sputum collections to them. And PATH was organizing the pickup of every single sample and delivering it to our doorstep. So it was a great example where we coordinated along with the government and the BMC. Daksha ma'am and everybody in the department at that time was extremely cooperative. They were very proactive in actually organizing these samples and giving a free hand to PATH. So we managed to actually do this for almost 6 to 7 years. And we detected, in every 100 samples, we were detecting almost 12% positive rates, which is a substantial number in a city like Mumbai. So post that, because of that, they got access to GeneXpert, they got access to XDR TB testing. And it was a very successful initiative which ran, and then after that, they actually handed it over to the BMC, which took over that program, and it is still running again. So that was a very good example. And then, we talk about PPPs and how are we going to get our payment. There are a lot of these other issues which I will talk about later, but in this case, there was no such issue. We had to maintain the data. A lot of discussions happened about the LIS and maintaining data in a way which is easily accessible for the agencies, whether it's the NGO associated with this and the government. We provided data on a real-time basis to them. They could verify the data. They could do, every month they did lab audits to check whether all these processed samples were actually processed in the lab. And they were, disbursing the amounts every 3 months without having to follow up. So that was a very good example of a public-private partnership along with the help of the Gates Foundation, which worked quite well for almost 5 to 6 years.
Wonderful. And I remember you talking about that you worked a lot on technology to make this happen.
Yes.
Great. And coincidentally, we are talking about PATH, and who is next sitting to you? Dr.
That's why I brought it up.
So, Dr. Sachin Gupte, he is a senior advisor with PATH. He is a public health specialist and has worked in this domain for over 30 years. He has worked with Gates Foundation, he has worked with WHO, and many more. So, glad to have you here, sir. Question for you is, what quality assurance and capacity building mechanisms are essential to ensure diagnostics PPPs deliver consistent outcomes across geographies and over time?
Well, thanks, Sanjay, and thanks, VOH, for having me here. And I'm glad Ajay is sitting next to me, and he mentioned PATH here. But very honestly, when we talk about PPPs, many years back, it was kind of a very new kind of a terminology working with the government. And the whole idea about getting into PPP essentially was to bridge that gap where there is no technical expertise available at the public health facilities, or allowing those PPP models to reach out to the unreached, served, underserved population. That was one. But the example which Dr. Ajay mentioned was something related to the National Tuberculosis Elimination Project. There was a time when most of the tuberculosis patients were going to the public health facilities, and the challenge was in any disease about early detection and then, of course, the compliance on treatment. We thought as PATH to be a little bit innovative on what can be done. And this project which Dr. Ajay is talking about was called PPIA, which is the Public-Private Interface Agency. So there was a government out there. We had the funding from the Gates Foundation. We partnered with his laboratory and figured out how can we bring in private partners into the system to actually address the challenges related to tuberculosis elimination. And then we had the funding available from the Gates Foundation, the kind of vouchers he's talking about. Very honestly, were funded by the development sector partner like Gates Foundation. We as PATH were the implementers of the project. And of course, the BMC was very much on board. And what we could do is that we created a modality, a mechanism where the private sector could be integrated into what the public health system was trying to do and address the larger issue that was grappling the public health system. I'm extremely happy to tell you what Dr. Ajay mentioned is it wasn't just accepted and scaled up in BMC, but it has now become a part of the national policy. The whole model that we talked about is now a national policy, and the whole construct is a part of the National Tuberculosis Elimination Program. So the PPI as a model is what has now got scaled up across the country. The funding comes from the government. What we as PATH did, they are actually contracting grassroots level NGOs and different cities and different states. They are now engaged with the NRHM and the tuberculosis program. Dr. Punit is here. I have worked extensively in UP as a lead for PATH's interventions in UP, so I'm fully aware of what Dr. Punit is talking about. We'll talk about the capacity building and everything because nothing can be sustainable or scalable without, institutionalizing the capacity building or the quality aspect. And why it is essential is, as we speak, and the previous panel talked about AI, I don't think a couple of years back anybody spoke about AI. Every single day we are having technologies which are being produced, generated, developed, and quickly the policies and the standards are changing overnight. It is extremely important that one-time capacity building or training is just not sufficient in the days that we live. To make the folks who are actually working, so we always believe the man behind the machine is more important than the machine. The machine has the capacity. The man who is actually operating the machine needs to be as sharp as the machine.
Wow.
Okay. So the fact is that it has to be dynamic. It has to be an ongoing process. It has to be something that goes on every quarterly or 6 monthly or even monthly. That is how PATH looks at it, and most of the development sector agencies look at it. We also need to then quickly tweak the policies, the SOPs, the standards, and because the technology changes, this also requires or needs to be changed. And if it is needed to be changed, then obviously the human resources who are managing this ecology also needs to be capacitated. And not just capacitated by knowledge, but we also need to get the skills kind of inculcated into their daily routine. So, to overemphasize what you say, I don't think any PPP model that kind of gets framed or kind of gets developed, it is pretty much institutionalized the way capacity building is going to happen, how the quality standards are going to be met, and most importantly, in today's digital world, the gone are the days when people used to sit with a pen and pencil kind of reports and writing it down. There are digital systems which actually allows you to monitor and supervise the functioning of your model on a day-to-day basis in a real-time basis.
So, yeah, so
That's
thanks a lot.
how I will look at it. Thanks.
I think from persons like you, we get to learn a lot about PPP because you have been a pioneer in that space. So, talking about pioneers, now we have Mr. Amit Gupta. He is COO with Credent Connect and Care, C3. Now, if you look at home sampling, sample collection, would you believe this company collected more than 60 lakh samples last year? And this year, they are going to cross 1 lakh home samples, 1 crore home samples. So, Mr. Gupta, over to you. How can PPP models better integrate sample logistics, cold chain integrity, and last mile connectivity into performance metrics to ensure diagnostic quality, reliability, and timely reporting at scale, at this huge scale?
Sure. So thanks, Sanjay. Thanks, VOH, for giving us opportunity to discuss this. So we need to understand that if we want to bring performance metrics for all these parameters into system, so we need to bring pre-analytics also as a part of clinical process. It can't be outside clinical process, right? Currently, clinical process starts from when sample reaches to lab. So we are saying that it should start from home or patient sample collection and then start building performance metrics. So how does it happen? The first is sample pickup. So for example, in PPP, most of the PPP happens tier 4 and remote villages. India has more than 5 lakh villages, right? And connectivity is always an issue. So collecting samples from remote locations on time, correctly, correct labeling, and movement of patient samples within that should be recorded as one performance metrics. Second is if there is any delay, why this delay is happening, is it because of manpower or something? What is the rate of error? That should also come as a performance metrics. This is second. Third is cold chain. When we are talking about movement of patient samples, is my cold chain maintained across the complete movement of patient sample or is it broken? We need to bring performance metrics. Is there auditable performance logs available for cold chain? Yes or no? It should be there. That's how performance will come into picture. Fourth is last mile connectivity. Most of the PPP happens in tier 4 and remote villages where skilled manpower is an issue. If skilled manpower is an issue, are we getting sample collected in the right way? First, are people available or not? This is first thing. Second, are we collecting sample in the right way? Are we labeling in the right way? Second part this. Third, that are we collecting samples on time? These are human patient sample and these are very time sensitive. All these things should come into performance metrics and all this data needs to be digitized and goes into some digital format along with my LIS data. So one single dashboard, one big dashboard, this is pre-analytical, this is my analytical, where those errors are coming, okay. Right? If those errors are coming, let's correct those things. If not, what are my pre-alerts? How can we digitize pre-alerts so that we should know before errors are coming? All those things should happen, only then I think we can build performance metrics and improve this thing. This is one way of thinking this thing. Another way is, why do we need to do this? India is a $4.2 trillion GDP. We are going to become $5 trillion. We are behind our target as a nation. Very soon we will become 5. We have ambition and aggression as a nation to become $10 trillion economy and then $25 trillion economy by 2047 or 2050 as we have set the target as a nation. If we have to grow to that level, that aggression, that ambition, few sectors will grow and healthcare has to grow. Healthcare can't be left behind. That is one of the critical sectors, right? Healthcare and therefore diagnostic. If diagnostic has to grow, all these different parameters, different processes has to become standard. Come into system, bring SLA, bring performance metrics, feed there, start tracking those at a bigger level.
So thank you, Amitji. I think all of us are running a little late, so I wish I had more time to ask you guys more questions and learn more from you, but thanks a lot for giving wonderful feedback. And I really hope that PPP takes India to the next level and takes it to small villages. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll invite you to stay with us and request Mr. Jha to kindly please start the felicitation ceremony. I'd like to thank Mr. Puneet Gupta, Chief Operating Officer for POCD Services. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for sharing your insights for this wonderful session. We'd also like to thank Dr. Ajay Phadke, Director for Strategic Business Development at the Angelus Diagnostics. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your insights on the topic. I'd like to extend our gratitude to Dr. Sachin Gupte, Senior Advisor at PATH. Thank you very much, sir. If you could please extend our gratitude to Mr. Amit Gupta for sharing his insights on the topic. And I'll invite Ms. Khushbu from Voice of Healthcare team to kindly please present a token of our gratitude to Mr. Sanjay Jha for wonderfully moderating this session as well, sir. Thank you so much. And if we could have you all together for a group picture, please. And ladies and gentlemen, if I can interest you to give in a big round of applause to our panelists here for bringing out the topic marvelously. Thank you. Thank you so much.